Well, we're pumping some fuel. I figured out how to get this pump to work, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. Unfortunately, there is something that did not work out too well with this pump, but we're going to go over it, and yeah, let's get started. Well, I think it's been about 6 months since the last video. Probably not. I think I rode this when it was cold outside. Anyway, we got a fuel pump. It is electronic. I figured out how to make it work, and it does not work for the application. We'll get into that here in a minute. Let me grab you off the stand and put you in my hand. We'll take apart this little bit of electronics I had to put together, show you what's inside of it, talk about how this pump works, talk about why it didn't work, and where we're going to go next with this scooter. So some of you might recognize this little fuel pump. Let me get this out of your way. This fuel pump goes to a Chinese diesel heater. It is pulse operated, and it actually needs a controller to run it, okay? So the reason I picked this is on TikTok I see a lot of these videos of these guys replacing these little pumps, complaining about the noise that they make inside their little Chinese diesel heaters, and I'm like, man, those fuel lines on that look small enough comparable to what we're using here with Goped's. I think Goped's 1/8 inch inside diameter, where this fuel pump is actually looks to be about 3/16 on the outside diameter of these barbed ends. And it's a pulse pump. It doesn't move a lot of fuel. So I'm like, well, if I can put a pulse pump on this, it might move enough fuel for me to get this thing to work. However, let me get this hooked up and we'll start opening this control box. In order to run this pump, if you just send 12 volts to it, it doesn't know what to do. It literally just goes thud, and it keeps the piston in there in one spot. It's basically just a solenoid in there with a return spring and a couple of check valves. I haven't confirmed that for sure because I've never opened one, but me judging the simplest way to make that, sounds like that's what it is. Once I get this open, I'll show you what I had to do to make this thing work. So, I'm using a 12 volt Milwaukee M12 battery. This is for your cordless drills. I use these for all kinds of cool things. This is a LED blinker relay with an adjustable speed potentiometer in there. It's not really a potentiometer because this thing's digital. So I turn this on and I get a pump speed. I can take the screwdriver in here and I can pick a new pump speed by driving this thing one way or the other. That's low speed. And that's high speed. Now the challenge with this is, this float style carburetor that's on here can't really handle the pressure that generates in this tank. I've cleaned the car about 10 or 15 times, and I get fuel coming out all the vent orifices for the bowl. So on bowl carburetors, they're vented to atmosphere, so that way they can easily make up what's used fuel wise before the float physically drops to open and allow more fuel to enter the bowl. The vent here, and there's a vent on the side. And what's happening is when we're riding this thing down the road, because I have this T here, I've got fuel coming from two different directions. I got fuel coming from the green line from the pump, and then pressure from the tank coming through here. The biggest downside with me having this T here is when the fuel tank got low, and I first tried this out, I don't have like this much fuel in the tank because I don't want to fill this thing up if I don't know if it's going to work or not. The fuel pump was pumping fuel, but the fuel tank pressurized so much that it pushed air from the yellow line, the return line, straight into the carburetor and a bowl drop and shut the thing off completely. So with that being said, this design isn't really going to work. When I did ride it, this engine runs great. This thing pulled like a freight train. It makes really good torque. I don't know about top speed yet because I haven't been able to get there. But I think I might be at the point of pulling off this carb and this manifold and seeing if this cylinder does have a pulse hole in it to maybe adapt like a 668 carburetor or something larger. This thing will probably work pretty well with that, but that's kind of where I'm at with it. I honestly, the reason why I even went with the electronic pump and didn't go with like a traditional pulse powered pump is because I don't know if there is or is not a pulse hole in this engine, and I do not want to drill a hole in this engine. I only have one of these, and this engine was actually given to me by a friend of mine on the West Coast, and it used to be a water pump. And I've Googled this thing, I've looked up 1,000 different ways, and there's only like 4 videos of this thing on YouTube. of it being used as a backpack dredge pump for gold mining in Northern California. So I don't want to modify this engine at all. I just want to see how it'll run with it in this configuration. However, I don't think it's going to work on the scooter with the use of this electronic fuel pump. So I don't have a place to pull a pulse from because I don't want to drill holes in this thing, and there isn't enough pulse traveling through the intake of this for me to like put a, you know, like a velocity stack with a pulse hole in it to have it then a pulse pump to keep up with it. So what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do is I think we're going to save this engine for something different and then put something a little more traditional in the scooter, maybe like a 290, or we can even put a 320 on here. I want to keep the 54 millimeter clutch mount on here because I'm too broke right now to buy a 78 millimeter mount. This thing would probably be a ripper with a 460 or anything of that nature on here, or any other type of like utility engine. So I think you can even mount the GSR40s to the 78 millimeter mounts. The GSR40 engine, I think, I don't know, I can't remember, it's been a while. Anywho, but we're gonna park this for now until I find an engine that suits this application, and then find maybe a better application for this engine. Maybe on like a go-kart or something where I can have a fuel tank mounted above it, you know? We'll see. I do have some go-kart ideas coming up. Those will be coming out here pretty soon. Yes, this fuel pump was a failure. A lot of guys said it was gonna be a failure, and I told them all to shut up, but hey, all right, you guys are right. I can eat shit on that one. Anywho, it's been good talking to you guys about 6-7 months later. At this rate, if I keep up with this, by the end of next year, I'll only have three of you guys who watch my videos. So I think I went from like 7 of you who are consistent down to like 5, and yeah, probably by the next video there'll be 6, not 6, but 3. So cool. Anywho, I'm done rambling. I will catch you guys on the next video. I do have some more projects coming up if I have time to get to them. So anyway, I'll see you guys soon.